In this episode of Pros vs. AMs, we're going to take a look at a couple key elements that's going to help us determine which one of these golfers is a multiple PGA Tour winner and which one of them is trying to become a single-digit golfer. Here's a scenario that we see quite often in the golf swing. And once you get to a certain skill level in the golf swing, you're going to start doing a lot more things like the best players in the world do. You're going to become very proficient at moving the club around your body, hitting the ground at somewhat the same spot every time. And then it's going to become a matter of how efficiently, how quickly all that can take place. And this is a perfect example of something we see all the time. Both of these golfers are in a great top of the backswing position. The golfer on the right is actually a little more rotated. The golfer on the left is actually recentered himself and is slightly ahead of where he started his swing at. Golfer on the right still a little bit on his right foot. Both golfers have really good right elbow structure. It's a really good indication of length of swing plus where the club is pitched relative to being on plane and shallowing, a good shallowing move to start the downswing. Now, either one of these golfers should be able just to transition the club, reverse it, start the downswing, and hit a good shot. So let's roll it forward and see what happens. So we can see right here, the golfer on the left is obviously our pro golfer. He did exactly that. He reversed the club, swung on down. The golfer on the right is our amateur golfer who was in a fantastic spot. Both of them had the club playing very nicely. He was in a fantastic spot to just reverse the club, start his downswing. Instead, he did what so many golfers do. He tried to get more turn, thinking it's going to help his downswing. And you're going to see here in just a second how it's really going to undermine what he's doing through impact. So now he's got a massive amount more of rotation compared to our pro golfer. He's still hanging out on his right side. And now he's really collapsed that right elbow and it's got the club bent back on itself. Really in a poor spot. The club's across the line at this spot. Really tough to lay it off from there. So he went from a very advantageous top of the backswing position, or what could have been his top of his backswing, to a really disadvantageous spot. Now let's see how he responds on the downswing. This is a really telling frame right here where the pro is pretty much finished with his swing and the amateur is just getting started. And just for reference, these swings haven't been altered with speed relative to one another. They're their timings of the swing. Both swings have just been slowed down to 1/64th of a second so we can see the numbers easier. And then our amateur comes into the ball at impact exactly almost when our pro is finished. And there's our impact numbers, and you can see them relative to the top of the swing numbers, just how much more work the AM had to do in basically the same amount of downswing time. It's just the AM was coming from such a drastically over-rotated spot and just physically isn't able to, in that amount of time, make up for it. And he winds up basically squared himself at impact with a late slide and a really rapidly straightening right elbow to get out of that position to try to shallow the golf club, which was difficult for him to do. So it's not about, if you want more distance, if you want a stronger striking spot, you want stronger compression, stronger ball flight, it's not making a bigger and more wound up backswing for so many golfers. It's about making a better downswing. And if you've ever played pool with a hustler, they're thinking 2, 3, 4 balls ahead. The rest of us are trying to make the ball that's in front of us, and that's no different in the golf swing. The pros are using the backswing to set up impact, to set up their downswing, and most amateur golfers are maxing out the backswing because that's the first job they have to do is take a backswing, that there's very little thought of what's going to happen and how much time there is to make it happen. So if you want more powerful golf shots, you need a better downswing, not necessarily a bigger maxed out backswing.